All right, hello everyone. My name is Christopher Locke. I'm the IBPA Director of Membership and Member Services, and this is my wonderful co-host, Michael. Feel free to say hello too.
Hi, Chris. My name is Michael Laran. I am the outreach manager at the Alliance of Independent Authors. We also go by ALLi for short, ALLi with an I, and we are a nonprofit organization for self-published writers by self-published writers.
So, what we're both really excited about today is, first of all, IBPA and ALLi are created to help you all succeed in publishing. That is why we exist. So this webinar is an example of that, but if you're a member already or if you're thinking about becoming a member, it's a really great place, and we're going to go through all this, but I just wanted you all to know, like, from the bottom of our heart, like, we're here to help you. We want to help you. Both Michael and I are author publishers, so we're in the same boat. We know how difficult it can be, how rewarding it can be, and again, how difficult it can be. So we're here to help make it a little easier for y'all. So I'm going to share some slides, and then we're gonna, it's about an hour. Again, during the webinar, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A. We wanna make sure that you all are feel comfortable asking the questions. We might not get to them to the end, so don't worry, we're not forgetting, but we just got a lot of various things that we're trying to get across. So let me share my screen. Okay, fantastic. That's our little hello.
Yeah,
okay.
Looks good.
Okay, good. If you were like, hey, I don't see it, I'd be like, oh, this is starting off real bad. Okay, so here's the number one most important thing about self-publishing. The term is a misnomer. You may have heard us use the term author publishers, and that is really like one of the most important aspects of all of this is if you're doing it right, you are not doing it on your own. You should be hiring professionals. If you are not a professional cover designer, you should be hiring a professional cover designer. You have spent years of your life writing this book. Don't do a disservice to it by, and look, I get it, you're trying to save money, but it really, people judge a book by its cover, the interior design, all of these things we're going to be going through today. Get professionals to do them. I know it costs a lot of money, but your book deserves it and you deserve it, and you'll have a much better chance of being successful if you do that. Do you want to add anything to that, Michael, or did I help sell it well enough?
That's that. Yeah, you definitely sold it, Chris. And I would also add, ALLi, we are the Alliance of Independent Authors. We couldn't agree more with what you just said, Chris. And that's why we call ourselves independent authors. We do use the term self-publishing, but it is a misnomer because you are publishing independently, but you do need to build a team of people around you, a trusted cover designer, trusted editor, and ultimately the decision is yours if you choose to go the independent route. But we believe that freedom is freeing. It's kind of amazing that you can choose what goes on your cover and you can hire somebody to help you with it and all of that stuff. So professionals are definitely your ticket to ride and definitely your ticket to helping getting there.
Okay, so we're going to go through the various stages of publication. Obviously, pre-publication is the first one. So one of the most important things to do in the beginning is to educate yourself. And by the way, not just the beginning. Every day that I work at IBPA, I learn new things. When I was publishing my first book, I look back and go, oh, I wish I knew that. But that's why we're here today, to help you all know that stuff. Okay, so right now, this is a good start. You should be going to webinars. IBPA has tons of them, and we have lots of different types of them. We also have the IBPA Independent Magazine, so you should be reading things like that. We also have an event called IBPA Publishing University. That's an incredible place to learn. Our next one's in Coronado, California, which is right outside San Diego, and that's on May 6th, the weekend of the May 4th and 6th of next year, 2023. We hope to see you there. We also have a lot of resource centers. So we're going to talk later more about metadata and distribution, but our website, you specifically can go to a place to also learn about these things. And then, of course, we also have our podcast, Inside Independent Publishing with IBPA. I also happen to be the host, so hopefully you like my voice today, and then you'll want to listen to that.
Yeah, listen to your golden tones, Chris. So it's good stuff. And to piggyback on what Chris said in terms of the IBPA offerings, ALLi has a number of offerings as well, and many of them are free to the public. And our first is what we call our Self-Publishing Advice Center. And this is a blog that we maintain. We publish it. We publish new articles almost every day. And our goal is to ultimately help get the best, most current, up-to-date information in your hands, so that when you are making decisions about your writing, the professionals that you hire, how to market your books, you're doing it with the most up-to-date information. And our mission at ALLi is to help authors achieve ethics and excellence in self-publishing. And we do that through a number of different resources. The blog that I just mentioned that is always up to date. There's always lots of really good information, lots of great posts around ISBNs, opinions from other authors who have been successful, spotlights, just so you can see what other authors like you are doing and how everyone else is responding to some of the industry changes that are going on. All right. We also have a podcast as well. So subscribe to IBPA's podcast, and then also subscribe to the Ask ALLi self-publishing advice and inspiration podcasts. And we have a podcast weekly. And we have a number of different shows. It's a podcast network. One of the shows that I happen to co-host is the Q&A podcast. So our members can ask their most burning questions, and myself and another co-host will answer them live on the air. We also have a beginner salon for that focuses mainly on beginners, and we even have an advanced podcast for those who are maybe a little bit further down the road, and certainly always fascinating to listen to. So our podcast is a great resource for our members and the public. And we also do a conference. This year, we have a conference coming up in October, Self-Publishing Advice Conference, and we get lots of great speakers, the best in the field. We get them into a Zoom call for a repeated 24 hours, and they give out the best information that they can. And all of that is also free. And we have a ratings directory. One of the things that we're big on is helping you avoid scams and helping you identify bad actors, because we all know that there are a lot of them out there. And we have a dedicated watchdog where this is his sole job, is to look at all the publishing services that are out there and rate them based on how well they comport themselves with authors. And we also provide that, so you can look up if you want to know if a professional is legit, or if they've had issues in the past. Look them up in our database, and we'll share that link later. But we'll tell you what we think, and we'll also tell you which services we think are doing an amazing job and that you should absolutely check out as well. So those are some of the services that we offer at ALLi.
Yeah, and I was glad to see IBPA on the best and worst services, and luckily we're on the best side.
Yes.
Believe me, I checked it. I was like, hey, I'm going to see what they think of us. But that's a really great directory, and I highly, like Mike was saying, we're going to go through some of these things later, but whenever, a lot of times people will get like these emails of like, your book's the greatest book in the world, and we want you to do our service. It's like, okay, hold on. Check them out first, because it very well may be a scam, so I don't want you all to get into a bad place with that. Okay, number two, something that's really, really important is you need to start networking. These are, so IBPA are really helpful in terms of giving you all, connections and resources and such. But really, a really great place is to talk to each other, talk to other author publishers, ask them, hey, I've used this service, or have you used this service, is it good? So IBPA has a lot of different places. We have the IBPA member roundtables. Once a month, we meet and we give people an opportunity to talk amongst each other about whatever they want to, but we also have sometimes like a theme. So for example, coming up in October, we're going to do the theme of copyright. People always have questions about that. And then in November, we're doing distribution, which is another topic people have a lot of questions about. Again, IBPA Publishing University. And also join a regional publisher association. So those are like local. So for example, like FAPA is the Florida Authors and Publishers Association. That's like a local, so you can connect with other people who actually live in Florida. And I mean, IBPA and ALLi are both international organizations, so we definitely have different events here and there. But if you do a regional publishers association, you can connect literally with people who are right next to you. And then IBPA has a list of ones that you get $30 off of IBPA membership if you're also a member of them.
All right, so some of the things that we offer to help you with networking, because we believe that it takes a village to help you build a writing career is that ALLi also has a Facebook member forum. Now, this is for our paying members, but we have a very lively Facebook forum where you can post questions, ask anything you want, and you can pretty much guarantee you that somebody will have an answer for you. So it's a great way to meet other authors that are on the same path as you. Maybe if you're newer, you'll meet some other authors who are in the same boat and make some friends, which is really important. And then also we have our ALLi staff members who do monitor and pop in to answer questions that might be more advanced. So our Facebook member forum is definitely one of the best values for the money if you become a paid ALLi member. And we also have Go Creative workshops for authors and poets. This is by our fearless leader and founder, Orna Ross. She conducts these workshops, and Orna is just a master at creativity and helping people unlock their potential, and also understanding not only how to be creative, but also how to manage that with the business side of things. Orna is just very good at that. And so we also have those that are available as well.
Okay, now we're moving on to publication itself. Okay, this is really important, and this is something that I certainly ran into, the idea of realistic expectations. So we want to go through some very specific details. So the cost of publishing, it can be thousands of dollars. And if you're doing it right, it most likely will be. So I can tell you that my two books cost around $8,000 each. I don't know, Michael, if you're comfortable sharing, but it's an expensive endeavor, and so hopefully you're saving up now. But if you understand that, then you're not going to do what I did, which is you end up tearing your hair out and having a nervous breakdown because you're I'm ruining myself. But really, it's just all of the things that you're doing, the cover design, interior design of your book, marketing. If you're doing it right, they are costly. These people are professionals, so just understand that. Michael, does anything you want to add about cost?
Yeah. For cost, I do my stuff on a pretty significant shoestring, but I know how to do some stuff myself. And I've just been able to make some tweaks over the years, but it cost me about anywhere from $500 to $750, maybe $800 per book. And that's for hiring a professional designer and a professional editor as well.
Okay, length of time. So in terms of how long, it can take about a year. And don't get stressed out when you're doing it, because these people are doing it right, there's a lot of different stages. So with an editor or a copy editor, you're giving them your book, they are going literally word for word and line for line, and that takes time. So while they're doing that, and something that I did on my second book that was better was, with my copy editor, I asked them to give me 50 pages at a time, or stuff like that, where I was can you give me it while you're working on it, so that I don't just get my whatever 500-page manuscript at the end, and then suddenly I'm going through the whole thing. But it can take a good amount of time, up to a year, and it's just the way it works. Michael, maybe now you've done so many books, maybe you're down to 3 days, but it's a long experience.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't. Yeah, it takes me significantly less time than most people to get something out, but it took me a long time to get to that point. I mean, my first book took me a couple of years to write, and so I would just argue that you don't want to rush the process. Make sure you take the time, take the steps so that you can get it right. Just as Chris talked about, hiring the right people, making sure you've got a quality product. And then the next book, you'll learn a little bit more about that process, and you'll get better at it. You'll be more comfortable. And then at some point, you'll reach a critical mass where you feel really comfortable, and you can get books out at the pace that feels right to you.
Yeah. And Michael, you want to take us through the 7 stages of publishing?
Yes. So the 7 stages of publishing are ALLi's framework of thinking about how you publish your books. So if you think about any book, it goes through these 7 stages. First, you've got to write it. Next, you've got to edit it. Then you've got to produce it, right? So meaning you got to format the book. You've got to hire editors, cover designers to create what we call the packaging of the book and getting it ready for the market. And then you've got to decide where you're going to sell that book. How are you going to distribute it? We call that distribution. So are you going to sell your book through Ingram, which we highly recommend? Are you going to get it onto Amazon and Google and Kobo and all the other retailers that are out there? How are you going to do that? What formats are you going to create the book in? These are all distribution questions. And then we view marketing as two distinct phases. So marketing is everything that you do to help people know that the book is out there. We view it more as a pull approach. So your book cover is marketing. You're writing your book description is marketing. It's helping people know that the book is right for them. All right. But then there's promotion, which is what we call pushing. So paid advertising, getting in front of people, asking for reviews. These things are more active, and we view them as two distinct phases. And then there's the phase that is not appropriate necessarily for every book, but certainly is on the table for some of your books as you start to write more. And that's rights licensing. So getting your book into other formats, translations, even a movie, or even wanting to do like trading card spinoffs of your book, anything you can think of. That's the beauty of copyright. As Chris mentioned, copyright is something that we can benefit from. And so ALLi has devoted a number of resources to helping authors get the most out of their copyrights. So if you think about those 7 stages, your book is going to go through all 7 of those stages. And it's helpful to think about that as a framework.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you're like, okay, I'm going to publish my book. Where do I publish it? So there's a lot of different options. You can start with possibly the all-in-one service providers. Okay, so why would you want to do that? These are places where they do everything. They do the editing, and you pay them. They'll do the editing. They'll do the interior design of your book. They can even do the marketing, distribution, all that stuff. So in some ways, it's easier just to do it all in one place, because then if you're looking, and we'll talk about freelancers in a second, where do you find these people? And it can be a little difficult to find them sometimes. Obviously, ALLi and IBPA have some resources, but you're still then having to, with each individual, facet of the publishing process, you're having to then go through that list of all those people and say, okay, I'm going to use this one and this one. Anyway, so it's easier sometimes with the all-in-one service provider. And it might even be cheaper, because sometimes they'll have like these packages where they'll put everything together. So IBPA does have different companies that we give discounts that do this all-in-one service. BookBaby's one. Our members get 10 to 20% off, and then Gatekeeper Press gets about 5% off of their different services. So it's helpful. Why you might not want to do one? Well, first of all, there are tons of companies out there, and as Michael mentioned earlier, some of them can be very scammy, and they'll do things like, we'll do the interior design of your book. They'll give it to you, and then you'll be like, wait, there are no page numbers on here, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's $50 extra per page, or it's like all these weird little add-ons, and it can get really annoying and very expensive. And the problem is, you've already started the process now. And so you're like, well, I guess I'll just keep working with them. And next thing you know, you've spent thousands and thousands of dollars. That's why like checking out like ALLi's list of places to trust is really important. And again, if you're getting all these, like if you're getting tons of emails to you from companies reaching out, asking you to, like, hey, we want to do your book or whatever, like you might want to be especially leery of like, how do they find out about you, and what, why are they reaching out to you? So please be very careful and just use reputable companies for these types of things.
So reputable companies are everything, right? And so if you do go with an all-in-one service provider, they're going to help you get the book, but generally they're not going to take your copyright, right? They're just there to help you produce the book. You keep the rights, you keep the royalties, and you pay them an upfront fee is generally the arrangement. So if anyone wants to take a percentage of your royalties, or they want a percentage of your copyright, that should be a red flag.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's also a lot of confusion between like what a hybrid publisher is versus what a service provider is. So IBPA does have a very detailed explanation of the hybrid publisher criteria, but the basic concept is, if they're like service providers, they'll just accept anyone. Like anybody can give them their manuscript, and then they'll edit it and they'll publish it and all of that. like a hybrid publisher is going to be discerning, just like an independent publisher. They're not going to publish everything. So some of these companies out there that call themselves hybrid publishers are really service providers, and they're just kind of using that as like a way to make themselves seem like cooler or something. But we just want to make sure that you're leery of these ones that might be taking advantage of you. Okay, so if you don't want to do that all-in-one service, you can do freelancers. So one of the cool things is they can do custom work, and they might not charge more for it, and they might be more open to it. Some of these all-in-one service providers are a little cheaper because they have templates, and they just put your manuscript into a template, and then they're like, here you go, right? But if you're like, well, actually, I'd like, for me, for example, I had like the Floron. If you don't know what that is, it's a little graphic at the top of every chapter. I wanted to have a raccoon mask. My main character in my series is a raccoon. And I was like, that'll look really cool. And I went to a all-in-one service provider, and they were like, yeah, that'll be $2 every time we put that in. And then next thing you know, I was like, well, that's like 66 chapters, and it's like, that's more expensive than the initial charge they were going to charge me. So I went to a custom freelancer, and they did it, and they did not charge me extra for that. So you got to kind of like figure out who you want to go with based on that kind of concept. And what's cool about the freelancers is there are people that have specific genres. Like, let's say they're mystery and thriller or romance or whatever. Like, if you've looked at those books, they have a very specific look to them. The interior, for example, of a mystery and thriller looks different from the romance book, and readers, even if it's subliminal, they open this book, and if it's a romance book and it looks like a sci-fi book, it's going to put them off a bit. So you want to hire people that know what they're doing, and maybe freelancers that really work in that field. They're a better way to go. And also, and this is kind of complicated, but some of the all-in-one service providers, when they distribute your book, they are listed as the publisher. But you want to be listed as a publisher, as the author publisher. And so not all of them, but you want to check that out if that's really important to you. So yeah, Michael, you know a lot about freelancers, so.
Yeah, we certainly, if an all-in-one service provider is the right fit for you, that is a good decision as long as you go with someone who is reputable, as we've discussed. At ALLi, we recommend hiring freelancers because you get more control, and you often can do all the same things and accomplish all of the same results with just a little bit of know-how. And I will say that, 10 years ago, it was a lot harder to hire freelancers than it is now, because there weren't as many people that had the skills that we needed. So if you needed a book cover, for example, there were only a few book cover designers that you could go to. You might have had to have done it yourself, back in 2011, 2012. And same thing with editors. Now there are editors and cover designers that specialize by genre. So you can go off and find, for example, an editor that specializes in fantasy or specializes in thriller, and you can find them on a site like Reedsy and reedsy.com. And I see some people in the chat have used Reedsy, and that's a place where you can basically post your book or post a description of your book, and then the freelancers will come to you and give you bids and help customize what it is that you need. And so freelancers do give you a little bit more control. You also have the ability to, like Chris said, customize, and yes, you will also be listed as a publisher, which is key.
So here's also some other freelancer tips. So IBPA has the IBPA Industry Standards Checklist for professionally published book. What's helpful with that is it goes through like very specific details of like what's supposed to go on the copyright page and things like that. So there's comp books. So which means there's other books that are very similar to yours. So let's say you write children's books about animals. There are other books out there like that. Go and look at those books. See how they look on the interior. See what the cost is. Look at all these details so that you know that your book is up to par with them, but then also kind of sticking to that genre. Of course, both ALLi and IBPA have member benefits, and you get discounts on these different freelancers. So definitely, sometimes people, like a year into their membership at IBPA, you probably run into this too at ALLi, where they'll be like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you all had a discount on whatever, like FedEx or something. And we'll be like, yeah, and they're like, man, I could have been saving money. So when you join an organization, look at all the benefits at first, so you're saving money. We also have the IBPA Supplier and Services Database. It lists all these different companies. Social Link's another place where it's like Facebook for IBPA members, where like you can email other or put a note, in there stating like, has anybody used like an editor that they can recommend or something like that. Michael, you feel free to go through. I think you kind of covered some of this stuff with the freelancers.
Yeah. I'll just reiterate our ALLi service ratings directory, and we will share the links, some of the public links that we've talked about after our presentation. But you can find that service ratings directory at selfpublishingadvice.org/ratings to look up a service provider there. And we also talked about Readsy. But the most important thing to do, whether you hire an all-in-one service or a freelancer, is to make sure that you have a signed contract between the two of you. And that just keeps everybody honest. It makes sure that the freelancer gets done with the project on time, make sure that there are no surprises like nickel and diming you for page numbers, like Chris mentioned. And also just making sure that there are no weird things that can come up. All right. Now, if you hire most reputable freelancers, you're never going to have any problems anyway. But a contract just makes sure that everyone's on the same page. And it's easy enough to draw up just name, date. This person agrees to provide this by this date, and it'll just make things so much easier for you. So we at ALLi definitely recommend the importance of contracts. And thank you for those who shared that link I just shared in the chat.
Well, it looks like you got some friends helping you out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, contracts are really important too, because sometimes we don't ask all the right questions in the beginning. And like Michael was saying, like, you want to know how long it's going to take. You want to ask, like say, how long do you think this is going to take? And then if they put that in the contract, then you can hold them to that. You're like, hey, you said it would take a month. It's been 2.5 months. Like, so just definitely run through these things in advance. Okay, ISBNs are really an important thing. I think something that people don't necessarily understand fully, the International Standard Book Number. So IBPA recommends that author publishers buy their own ISBNs. You want to be remember how I said earlier about being listed as a publisher? So Bowker's in the US, the company that owns ISBNs. You have to buy them from them. IBPA members get a 15% discount. Michael, do ALLi members get a discount on Bowker?
We do not. So we recommend people join IBPA to get that.
Okay, cool. So they're really expensive. Like you're like, what are you kidding me? Like it's like, I think it's like $100 some for one. You can get like a pack of 10, but it really adds up. But you can
buy a pack of 1,000 for really expensive.
Well,
so it's
for
not
someone like you,
cheap.
Publishing like 70 books, you're going to need 1,000. So you want to be listed as a publisher. You fill it out. But there are a lot of these sites, KDP, Ingram Spark. A lot of them are offering free ISBNs. The reason you don't want to go with that is because, again, they are then listed as a publisher. Now, they'll say, oh, you own the rights to your book, but I'm telling you, like, things happen over time. Who knows, 5 years from now, what some of these, things happen. You want to be listed, you want to be the one who owns your book. So, and also, let's say you get, like, for KDP, like the ISBN, that's for KDP site. If you want to post it on whatever other sites, then you're going to have to get either their free ISBN or use your own. But if you own the ISBN, then for the different sites, you're then just giving it to them and saying, this is the print book ISBN. The annoying thing is that you do have to have a different ISBN for each format, which is another reason why it kind of ended up costing a lot. So you've got like the print, the hardcover, the ebook, the audiobook. Like, it can really add up. Next thing you know, you've got like 4 ISBNs for like one book. But that's how the bookstores and the librarians and all that, that's how they find the book. So that's why each different one has to have a different ISBN.
Hey, Chris, there was a question that came up around all-in-one service providers. If I use like a BookBaby or a Gatekeeper Press, are they listed? Do they provide an ISBN, or are you still listed as a publisher of record? Do you still have to provide your own ISBNs?
So some of them you can provide your own one, and then some of them do offer free ones. But again, you should have your own one that you bought because you want to be in control of it. Now, some of those companies, interestingly enough, when they distribute your book, they do, like if your book's listed then on like Amazon, it will list them sometimes, even if you have your own ISBN, it'll list them as the publisher only because they are like the one distributing it. And then that company, that retail site, that's how they sell the book. So it can kind of get confusing and a little annoying. But again, if you want to be the one who owns the original ISBN, so that if like a bookstore is going to buy your book, then they look up the ISBN and then they see you as the publisher. It also makes you look more professional. It's good to have, instead of just having like your name as the on the ISBN, you should have a name for your company. So like I created Fathoming Press. I only publish my own books, but you want to have a company name, again, that makes it look more professional. I did do it through the state, like I got like the business license and all that. You can talk to a lawyer and find out whether or not you want to go through that whole process, but at the very least, you should, to look more professional, have some type of name for your publishing company other than Christopher Locke. Looks a little more professional.
I agree. And someone had asked that question earlier too, so this is a good time to answer it. I definitely, I mean, at ALLi, we strongly recommend that authors start a publishing company, even if it is a sole proprietor. So a sole proprietor essentially is, there's no difference between you and your business. You are your business, essentially. Across the pond, we call it a sole trader, but every country has a very similar term. And even if you do that, it still makes you look more professional. Ultimately, you can evolve into an LLC or another entity type as you progress. But we definitely recommend that. It just makes you look more professional. And it also, you have to list a publisher as the publisher of record when you purchase an ISBN, and that doesn't change. So do you want your name listed as a publisher of record, or do you want a company listed as a publisher of record? That's, I think, the key thing to think about.
Yeah, and Michael, you know more about international ISBNs in terms of from other countries. Are you able to speak to that?
I can. So internationally, here in the United States, they nickel and dime us for everything. We have to pay an arm and a leg for ISBNs, but it's not necessarily the case in other countries. In Canada, for example, ISBNs are free. They're provided, I believe, by the government. And there are other countries around the world where they're either free or a lot more reasonable. So the number one thing to make sure you understand is where you can purchase ISBNs from. Usually each country only has one certified, I forget the proper name, but a certified provider of ISBNs. In the United States, that's Bowker. In the UK, for example, it's Nielsen. So just make sure you're buying your ISBNs from the right company, or getting them from the right company if they're free.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so let's move to distribution. This is something that is incredibly important. This is where getting your book out there. So we highly recommend at IBPA, you're going to want to have your book on multiple retail sites. I know a lot of author publishers want to just post it onto Amazon because Amazon has like the fair share of the market, but you want to make sure that people that are going to buy your book on Barnes & Noble, Google Play, wherever it is, they have access to it too. Some people do not buy their books intentionally from places like Amazon. So as many places as possible. The other reason is, again, you want to be in control of where it is. And if you only have it in one place, I will say there are a lot of members who reached out to us recently where like Amazon's reached out to them and said, hey, your book infringes on copyright, and they took down their books. Now, it was their book, they published it, they had the complete rights to it, but it took like 6 months for them to prove their case to Amazon that they owned the rights to their book. And if your book was only on Amazon, that's 6 months now that you are not making any money in your book, and you're probably hiring a lawyer to help you get it back. So have your book on as many sites as possible. It's to your best interest to do that. And then also, and we're going to talk about this more in the next page, but booksellers, librarians, and so forth, they have accounts with these different places. So like Ingram Content Group, that's where they buy their books. So like a bookseller, if you are going to try to get your book into bookstores, they're not going to buy your book from Amazon because they're a direct competitor. So if you want to get your book into bookstores, you got to have it on something like Ingram Spark so that they can buy your book. So the next point, publishing is a global business. Michael, you definitely have more of an expertise on that. So
yeah, yeah, everything you said was great. I would also let's make a distinction between ebooks and paperbacks. So a question came up in the chat around Amazon and Kindle Unlimited KDP Select. For ebooks, this is a program where you can put your ebook. I have to be very clear and precise here. You put your ebook into Amazon's exclusivity program in exchange for higher visibility and a little bit better treatment by the Amazon algorithms. In exchange for that, you can only sell your ebook on Amazon. Now, you can sell your print book anywhere else. Okay. Now, the problem with Amazon exclusivity is there's nothing wrong with it for a short period. At ALLi, we're always big fans of using every tool that you have in your disposal. But as we have on the slide here, publishing is a global business. Amazon Kindle Unlimited is really just, honestly, the United States market and a few other markets around the globe. It's not by any means a majority of where all readers buy their books. So by solely putting your ebook on Amazon Kindle Unlimited, you are basically locking out sales from the rest of the market and from many other countries around the globe. That's why we strongly recommend for all of your formats, ebook, print, audio, whatever you produce, that you publish what we call going wide. All right. And that means putting it on as many sites as possible. All right. Because you never know where you're going to find a reader. And because this is an international business, we've got to be thinking international in terms of how we distribute our books. KDP Select is okay for a time, but long-term, it is not a viable solution for running a long-term author business.
Okay, so we'll talk specifically about places. So like we said, there's places like BookBaby, Gatekeeper Press. They're an all-in-one service. They'll distribute your book to all these different sites. Then there's Ingram Spark. Now that's a really great one, and I highly recommend author publishers get their book on Ingram Spark. It does have a cost, but luckily ALLi and IBPA members get free title setup and free revisions. There's a 50 limit per year, but I'd be shocked if your average author publishers doing 50 books per year, so you should be fine with that. And you can do both your print and your ebook through Ingram Spark to distribute to these various sites. And you can tell them also, like your ebook. So for me, I did my book through Ingram Spark, but then I specifically have it on Barnes & Noble Press, the print and the ebook, because you get a higher royalty. And then there's places like Google Play that Ingram Spark does not distribute your ebook to, so that you can then have your ebook put in there. The only thing about that is that all these different sites have different specs for your cover, for your interior design, for your print. So it can get a little complicated, but you just work with your ebook designer and your cover designer. You send them the pages with all the specs, and that way when you upload it, you don't run into issues. But it's good, if you want to make a higher royalty, it's helpful. But if you don't want to deal with all that hassle, technically, a lot of places, like if you just post it to Ingram Spark, you can just go to these other sites. Michael, did you want to add something?
Yeah, you can actually go to the next slide, and I can talk about it. So there's a third option, which is to use a distributor. So you may have heard the names Draft2Digital, Publish Drive, StreetLib. Those are just a few. And these are companies that will basically do the same thing that Ingram Spark does, but they specialize in this. They're in many respects, they're more specialized for self-published writers and indies. And what they can do is they can distribute your book to Amazon, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you can think of, essentially. And they take a 10% cut of every book that you sell. You keep the copyright, everything else comes to you. All right. Now, what we strongly recommend book distributors. We do recommend that you go direct to any retailer where you can. So if you can create an account, we recommend doing that and publishing the book directly there. So like, for example, we strongly recommend that you have an account with Amazon, that you have an account with Google, Barnes & Noble, etc. But these distributors can also get your book into books where you can't get your book into otherwise. So Draft Digital, for example, has a lot of markets all over the globe that they can get your book into. For example, Overdrive, Hoopla, certain book retailers in Spain. I think there's a few in Europe, and so these places don't have individual sites that you can log into, right? So we recommend a yes and approach. We recommend distributing your print book through Ingram. We recommend distributing your ebook and your paperback to any place that will allow you to create an account. And then we also recommend that you use a distributor to get your book into all those other little places that you wouldn't be able to get into otherwise. Now, that is a lot of work. It is a lot of hassle. It is death by dashboards, most certainly. You can certainly streamline it if you want to, and just use a distributor if you want to make things a little bit simpler for yourself. But long term, we do believe that it will net you a higher royalty, and it will just help you keep more control over your books in the long term.
Yeah, and with all these types of things, you have to have these different versions of your book, and it takes a while to create all of them. So you're just going to be working with your ebook designer and your cover design. I mean, all of these places, you're going to be working with them to just create these different files, and it's going to take a while. And it's just part of the process. So again, don't get stressed out that you're like having to kind of keep track of all that. But I don't know about you, Michael, but yeah, I have mine on all these different places individually, and it does get a little confusing sometimes because you're like, wait, did I upload this book to PHP? Right. I know I did the first one. So, but so along those lines, as we said earlier, you don't want to rush your publication. You can only publish it once. And there's a lot to get ready. We're going to talk about more things in advance, especially things like marketing. And I know as an author publisher, it's taken you years to write the book, a year or more to publish it, and then you're just like, I just want people to read this thing. But you once you publish it, there's literally certain things like certain trade reviews and such that you cannot get. And if you didn't understand that, well, then now you've lost out on that opportunity. So just do all your research, make sure you talk to other people who've published books, you get everything ready in a row, and then publish. Your book's going to be ready, all your files going to be ready for a while, like a month or two before, or more before you actually publish it. And that's what these big publishing houses, I know sometimes people who are authors, they go through the, like Big Five or indie publishers, and they're like, what? Why are they not publishing my book? It takes forever, right? Because they are setting your book up for success. They are making sure that they have all the trade reviews that your book should get, all of those things that, and then they're reaching out to the media, all those places before your book ever hits the shelves. And that way that when your book hits the shelves, it goes right to number one because everyone's already heard of it before. Michael, any notes on that?
No, you answered that beautifully.
Yay! Okay, marketing. So this is something that I understand as author publishers, and especially at author side, people go, well, I don't want to have to market my book. I just want to write books. I get it. But if you want to sell books, you got to market them. So you should be starting your marketing about 3 to 6 months before you publish. Like I said, like things are going to be ready and everything, but you're going to be like, well, I just want to get it out there. Do not publish it yet. Start marketing it. Start getting the word out. Here's places that you can market your book to. Bookstores, libraries, consumers, which is, the people who buy books, the international market, the media, retail stores, and the education market. So you might be like, well, what's the difference between like a retail store and a bookstore? So you've got like museums that have bookshops. You've got clothing stores that sell books. I'm sure a lot of you all have gone into a clothing store, or you have coffee shops that have, there's places all over. And just as a point, I'm going to talk a little bit more about bookstores in a second. A retail store might be a much better fit for your book than a bookstore. So let's say I'll just use my example. My books are about animals. There's clothing stores that specifically sell like vegan clothing and vegan food and things like that. That is a perfect fit for my book. In fact, I got my books into them. I had a really hard time getting my books into bookstores, and it's really difficult for author publishers, especially to get their books into bookstores. So don't necessarily focus on that market. Focus on places where you're like, oh, of course, if your book is about like, let's say like hiking, There's a store that sells all this great, hiking equipment. Try to sell your book to them, rather than just some bookstore that has literally, possibly any book out there. So let's go into more details.
Yeah, I was going to say
yeah,
something real quick because
Yeah.
I don't think we cover it later. And another important element that Chris put on here is consumers. So selling direct to your readers is a great way to build your book sales. Because if you think about it, we talked about how your publishing business is global. You are going to have readers all over the world, and some readers may want to buy books directly from you. So figuring out how to integrate a service onto your website through like a Gumroad or PayHip or Shopify can be a great way to help you improve your book sales as well. So that's another great way for marketing.
Yeah, you should have an author website, and on there should be some method of them being able to buy your book directly. And sometimes you can do special things where you'll sell like signed copies of your books, things like that. It's a little more expensive because then you're the one shipping it. Something like Shopify or something's a little easier because it's just. But anyway, absolutely.
Yeah, but ebooks. I mean, you don't have to. I mean, you can use. There's plenty of ways to get ebooks to readers, and you can get like a 90% royalty. You can't get that anywhere else. So it's a great way to improve your sales too.
I would like a 90% royalty. That'd be great.
Wouldn't we all?
I like 100% royalty. That's it.
102% royalty.
I wrote it. Okay. So we have. We'll go into some details about IBPA has different marketing programs, and I'll talk about some details of that, but also then just that market. As I said, bookstores. A lot of people want to get their books in the bookstores. It may not be the best place for you. Something you need to think about. Think about it from their perspective. A bookseller, they buy a copy of your book, they put it on their shelf. They want to think that someone's going to come in off the street and want to buy that book. If a person off the street has never heard of you as an author, they don't care about they've never heard of the book at all, they're very unlikely to buy the book. So bookstores are just like, hey, I'm just trying to make money. So is your book going to sell in a bookstore? If you don't think so, it's okay not to get your book in the bookstores. There's so many other markets, and I will talk about consumers in a second, and that is a incredibly great way to get book sales to consumers, people. You just sell directly to people. But anyway, if you want to get into bookstores and you think you have a good opportunity, IBPA does have the IBPA bookstore catalog. And as a very important note, as Michael and I have mentioned, you need to have national distribution. Your book needs to be available where these bookstores buy books. And they're going to buy it on a place like Ingram because they already have an account. And they're not going to buy it from some place like, as I said, Amazon. Another really great market is libraries. There are thousands of libraries across the U.S. So IBPA has two programs. The American Library Association Conference is really cool. There's like an exhibit booth, and we represent your books there, and then librarians come up, and it's like really fun to literally the librarian comes up, they see the books, and sometimes we every time we have these demo tables where we have authors and publishers signing the books, and there's literally a line of librarians lining up. It's a really great way to get this contact with them directly. And then we email you a list of the librarians who stop by the booth. We also have the Library Market e-blast, so that it's an email that's sent out to all these 5,000 libraries across the U.S. Based on the type of book you have. So as Michael was mentioning, so we've got consumers. These are people that they love books, and if you can't get in the library and bookstore market, totally fine. There are a lot of authors that have done very well selling just to consumers. And that's not just through your website, it's just, like your books, I guess I said, like it's on barnesandnoble.com and all these other sites. But you should be then marketing to these people. IBPA has two options. BookieCall, it's like a dating app, it's like Tinder or something, but instead of it being you that they're wanting to go out with, they date your book, and then there's also the public radio author interview, so like NPR, it's a 2-minute interview, and then it's put on to NPR and all these different stations. It's excellent exposure to do that. There's also the international market. So here's something I would say about the international market. So there's a place called the Frankfurt Book Fair. It happens every year, and it's a huge book fair. It's amazing. But for something like that, and what you do is there's rights licensees that come to the booth, and like IBPA has a booth there, and they are asking, oh, do you have any mystery and thriller books, right? So then they'll go and check them out. Something I'd say about the international audience, though, is if you're trying to get into that audience, is you have to think about if your book's set in Japan, or if it has a main character who lives in a very specific part of the world, like Turkey or something. You might have a better chance of a publisher in Turkey or Japan wanting to publish it. If it's set in the U.S. or if it's about like U.S. politics or something like that, like you may not focus more on the market you think will want to get your book, and they'll help you with translations too. So if they want to get the rights to your book, don't worry, like, oh, I don't have a Spanish language version. Like that's their whole thing. They'll have someone who does that. Michael, do you want anything about some of these things?
Yeah, no, you answered those great. No, no,
Okay.
it's good.
Obviously, the media is an incredible place for you to get the word out. So it's important. Something that's helpful is you want to tie your book into something that's happening in the news right now. So it could be something like your book's about war or something. So like Ukraine, or it's like Hispanic Heritage Month or something like that, right? And then your book's about like that or those issues. So find an angle, because the media, they're looking for a hook. They're looking for an angle. The fact that your book was published is not an angle for them to write an article about. The angle is that your book's about war and the Ukraine war is going on, and your book's about strategies to end a war, or whatever, right? So think of things like that. IBPA does have the IBPA Media Outreach Program. It goes out to 3,000 journalists, and it's specifically targeted to journalists who write about that issue. So it's helpful to know, like, and that's something for you if you don't do our program. If you're reaching out, you need to find out, like, what does that journalist normally write about. If they normally write about cookbooks and you're sending them your book about the Ukraine war, they're gonna be like, what? Why? So really do your research and don't bother them unless they write about it. And also follow their guidelines. A lot of times if you're trying to reach the media, they'll list like how you reach them, and make sure you do it exactly like that. Metadata is an incredibly important thing to get your book out there. It is it's like the title of your book, it is your description, all that stuff. You want to hone that. You want to make sure that is it's written to your genre, that it's enticing, that it has keywords and words that are really good for SEO. I know we're writers, but like a lot of us, we're fiction writers and not necessarily like good at marketing copy. So it can be overwhelming to suddenly be like, oh my gosh, I have to write, like, I have to describe my book in 3 sentences, and it has to be really snappy. So we have a program called the Metadata Makeover. We have 2 people that are excellent about their work in the business, and then they can give you feedback on it. They'll help you find keywords, things like that. So, but if you don't hire them, that's fine. But probably, get help with these things. Like, don't take on, again, everything on your own. Even though you're a writer, it doesn't mean you're an expert on that type of writing.
Yeah, we have a lot of resources at ALLi too to help you with that. And also some resource recommendations too. So check our blog for determining the best keywords. We certainly have some posts there. There's also programs that can help you do that. One of them is called Publisher Rocket. It's by a gentleman named Dave Chesson, and it searches, at least on Amazon, the best keywords in categories that you can put your books in. So there are lots of resources to help you do this. Don't feel like you have to pull a rabbit out of a hat. Usually there's somebody that can help you with this process.
Yeah, and it's so important to, again, you've written this amazing book, you have a great cover now, you pay someone to do that, interior design, and then suddenly now the description is something that people go, I don't want to read that. And you're like, oh my God, that was, you lost him in that last moment.
Yeah.
So we also have, I'll talk more about the IBPA and ALLi program, is about how you garner reviews later.
Before we do that, there were a few questions that maybe we want to address.
Oh, yeah.
The first is there a specific process to follow when approaching retail stores?
So yeah, so retail stores, so it depends, right? So for traditional distribution, which means you have a group of people that sell your books. They actually do that for you. It's really hard to get traditional distribution though. They want to be guaranteed that your book's going to do well. So if you don't have traditional distribution, then it's helpful sometimes to have like connections to these markets. So maybe you hire like a promotional team or marketing team, some people that have some type of connection. For anyone listening that's not necessarily an author publisher, but also maybe publishes books through that you're an author, it's better for your independent publisher or your publisher to be the one to reach out. They just kind of have a little more cachet, but sometimes they will have specifications. So like for me, I went directly to the owners. I reached out to them for like the stores I've been in. Michael, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I have not sold to retail stores, so you're the expert on that.
Okay. But yeah, and feel free to email me if you if you want to get further information. I can. And by the way, email Michael and myself if you have further information after this. We're happy to help. We know a lot, but if we don't, then we want to get you the answer from someone else.
Yeah. Okay. So next question is, for selling translation rights, what factors will weigh most heavily on a rights buyer's decision?
Well, like I said, I mean, definitely you want to make sure that, like, if your book is about Japan, like, you got a good chance of getting into Japan. But think of that. Think of like what are the topics or themes in your book that are specifically related to a certain part of the world. So at IBPA, our Terry Nathan is the COO, and he's the one who runs the Frankfurt Book Fair program. So you can either email me or I can help connect you to him. But he knows a lot about the international market, and we also have like videos that we've posted about that too.
Okay, great. And then, do the IBPA media support programs apply to authors in the UK or outside of the United States?
So yeah, the way a lot of our programs work is it sells to the U.S. market. So a lot of the people that are international, they want to get into U.S. bookstores, and they want to get into whatever, like they want to get an interview on a podcast or a TV show. So all of that is for the U.S. market, and then it's a way to get into the U.S. market. But like our programs aren't like set up so that it sells like to like whatever bookstores in Australia or something like that. That's why a lot of people become members from international, is to get into the U.S. market.
Okay. And someone was just asking to say a little bit more about your NetGalley program.
Oh, don't worry. I got a whole bunch.
All right. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
It'll be very exciting.
All right. So for ALLi, we have some top marketing tips. These are things that our members do and have a lot of success with. And these are things that we really just, you don't want to be caught dead without them in today's publishing climate. A decade ago, there were a lot of authors without websites. Now I think everybody understands the importance of one, as well as a mailing list. All right. So your website is your home base. It's where readers are going to go when they want to look you up. And if you don't have a website, then essentially you are becoming invisible, and you're relying on other websites to give information about you to your readers. Whereas you really want to be the first source to give people information about who you are, what books you write, where they can find them. And this is how you do that. And we could probably do a whole webinar on websites, but there are just a few options. WordPress is by far the most common. There are two types of WordPress. There's a free WordPress, and then there's a paid hosting WordPress. We recommend the paid hosting if you can afford it. It's relatively affordable, but again, we just don't have enough time to go into that today. But some alternatives to that are Squarespace and Wix. You pick your poison. There are plenty of places out there that'll help you build a website pretty easily. You don't have to know any coding. You just have to watch a few tutorial videos and figure out how to get set up. And honestly, this is your most important real estate. It's one of the areas on the internet, one of the only areas on the internet that you can control. Right? You can control what's on your website. You can control how it looks. You can control what readers see first when they go there. So don't neglect your most valuable real estate. Now, your mailing list is another very important asset, and that's how you communicate with readers when you have a new book or news. I just found out that Audible is discounting one of my books. You can get it for like $4, and one of my readers said, "Hey, Michael, your book is on sale. I got it for like $5. Did you know that?" And I was like, "No, I didn't know that. That's amazing."
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to my mailing list. I typed up a quick newsletter and said, "Hey, readers, just want to let you know, you can grab this, all three books in my trilogy for $5. Here you go." Right. So it's a wonderful way to get news out. So to get those people on your list, you give away a short story or something for free so that they join, and you put a link to your mailing list in the back of your book so that when someone finishes your book and they like it, they join your mailing list. And then over time, you develop a community of people that you can reliably let know when you have a new book, when you've got important news, and it becomes a marketing vehicle for you. Now, wherein lies the rub is that sometimes it can take a while, especially if all you write is fiction. It can take a while to build a list, but the sooner you start building it, the sooner you'll get a substantial list of people. And it's not important to have a bunch of people on your list. What's more important is to have engaged people on your list. I would rather have 100 people who will click the moment they see an email from me and buy my books every time than have 10,000 people that never open your emails. All right. So this is really about engagement. And you don't want to be building your mailing list on your Gmail account, by the way. All right. You can't put people's emails in your BCC. All right. You actually have to use an approved service like MailChimp, ConvertKit, or GetResponse, just to name a few. There's a bunch. Because if you don't do that, you can be blacklisted, and you can get your email account canceled. And in some countries, it can actually be a violation of people's privacy. So thinking internationally with places like the UK and Europe with GDPR laws and just respecting other countries' privacy laws, you want to use a service like this because they're always going to be compliant and give you the most up-to-date services that will help keep you safe. All right. And it also gives readers the ability to unsubscribe at any time, which is also very important.
Yeah, and I know it's noon, and I really appreciate y'all. We have so much information, so
We do.
we're gonna keep going.
Yep.
But again, there is a recording of this, so if you have to go to a dentist appointment or something, then just feel free to watch the recording. We'll email it to you afterward. Okay, so reviews. They're incredibly important. There's multiple types, but we'll focus on two: trade reviews and then consumer reviews. So trade reviews are those that are directed at book professionals, so booksellers, librarians, and they're published in trade journals, Publishers Weekly, Critic Reviews, places like that. What are they for? They're for those people, so that those are the people that get your book into the hands of readers. So why would you want a trade review? So booksellers and librarians are much more likely to buy your book if you have a trade review. These are places that they trust. So there are millions of books that are published a year, and they do not have time to read all of them. So they read these Publisher Weekly, Kirkus Reviews, all these different places, so that they can see what are the best books out there. If you have a really great review in there, they're much more likely to get it. And also some of them, like the libraries especially, won't buy your book if you don't have a trade review, because they it's like a part of their rules. So these are honest reviews. They are sometimes unfavorable, and I know that it's like sometimes we're going to talk about the paid reviews for these trade reviews in a second. But sometimes some of these companies, you'll send it in and then they'll give you back a review, and then you'll be like, well, great, I got a bad one. The good thing is some of them you can just say, okay, just don't post it. I want anyone to know that this review exists. It's a possibility. Sometimes film agents, literary agents, publishers, and such also read the trade, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should do it for that reason. But it's a nice little bonus. What's helpful about trade reviews through these major trade publications is they will syndicate them to the places where booksellers, librarians buy your books. So you'll get a review, and then you say, yes, this is great, and then they'll syndicate it to Ingram, Baker and Taylor, so that when a librarian goes to buy your book, they'll see, oh, wow, they got a 5-star Publishers Weekly review. Read the guidelines very carefully. So since COVID happened, a lot of things have changed, and they sometimes don't want like a print version anymore. They just want a version that's due to like a PDF or something like that. And you can use sites like NetGalley and Edelweiss to submit your books as well. Okay, what are the most well-known trade publications? You've got Kirkus Reviews, Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, and School Library Journal, which is for the YA and children's. And then you have Book List, which is run by the American Library Association. And then you have Forward Reviews. So if you're looking to get a trade review, these are the ones that we recommend. Okay, so here's some important things to think about when it comes to trade reviews. They have calendars of times when you're supposed to submit your book. So they want your book 3 months before it's published, right? So start going now, looking at all these sites and seeing which ones you want to apply to, and make sure that whenever your publication date is, you put on your calendar, I need to have submitted it by that point. And what's really helpful is they do these special reviews, like issues. So they'll have like an issue where it's like a whole section about cookbooks, right? So if you get on their newsletter, then they'll in their newsletter say, hey, we're looking for cookbooks that are coming out in the spring. And you're like, awesome, right? And you have a better chance of getting a review because they're going to be doing a whole feature on that. And also, trade reviews are very difficult to come by. They're hard to come by for the big 5 publishers. They're even more difficult to come by for independent publishers, and they're even more difficult to come by for author publishers. So do not get discouraged if you don't get one. Sure, apply. It's important to give it a try, but if you don't, that's okay. Focus on other things. Okay, so should you get a paid review? And what I'm talking about is not paid reviews as in like some company that says, hey, you're guaranteed to get 5 five-star reviews if you hire us. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about these trade reviews have a paid version of their review. So again, the market is specifically for bookstores and librarians and like booksellers, right? So if you don't think you're going to really try to get in that market, don't have a good chance, you don't necessarily need to get even the free version, although sure, why not give it a chance, but especially you don't need to get the paid version. Now, sure, it helps, if you put on your website that you've got a 5-star Publishers Weekly review. I mean, readers will see that and they'll be like, oh, wow, maybe they've heard of Publishers Week and they think that's great. But, you're thinking about your budget and you got to figure out, well, is it worth it? Trade reviews in terms of getting into the media. So if you want to get an article written about your book, you want to get on a podcast, a TV show, whatever, they have heard of these companies, and it can help in your, if you reach out to the media, if you say, I got, a 5-star, like editor's choice review from like Kirkus Reviews. Also, keep in mind, if these paid reviews are going to go to the booksellers and all the places they buy books, again, a lot of the ones, I'll list some, do, but then there's other ones that don't. And there are a lot of these companies out there that say they'll give you a review, like a trade review or whatever. And if a librarian or bookstore has never even heard of that company, then they're going to be like, great, good job, but they're not going to care that you got a review from them. So that's why I'll give you a list of ones that are better known. Your review should only be part of the marketing plan. Like you should use it now. Put it on your website. When you market to libraries and bookstores, make sure you let them know you've got it. Like you need to get the word out that you've got this review. Put it on your social media, all that stuff. Okay, so author publishers have been very successful without getting into bookstores and libraries. So if you don't have a trade review, it's fine. Again, keep that in mind. Okay, here's some of the really highly respected paid reviews out there. Kirkus Reviews. They have a Kirkus Indie program, by the way. That's how you have to apply. Publishers Weekly Book Life. IBPA members get a 20% discount on that. Forward Reviews, Clarion Reviews. What's awesome about Forward Reviews is that they only do independent books, right? So author publishers and then independent publishers. So chances are a little higher of getting them, and they're very well respected. So they have the Clarion Reviews program, and IBPA members get a 35% discount. Blue Ink Review is another well-respected paid review. IBPA members get $75 off of those. There's ABA's Advanced Access Program. IBPA members get $75 off that. Book Trib. IBPA members get 50% off their book review and promotion package. And then there's Indie Reader. IBPA members get 15% off. So these are some that are well known that you, if you got one of these, that like a bookstore or a librarian would be like, oh, cool, that's good. Anything you want to add, Michael?
No, that was all great.
Okay. Okay, so reader reviews. These are the, remember we talked about consumers. These are reviews specifically directed at consumers, and they're published anywhere where readers go, okay? They're on places like Amazon, Goodreads, NetGalley, book blogs, things like that. Don't pay for reader reviews. Michael, you probably want to talk about this, right?
Yeah. I mean, we underlined it, but really, if we could, we would have put this on size 72 font, bold, red, Comic Sans, just so everyone sees it. All right. So everything Chris just talked about was trade reviews. Completely different type of review, as he covered very thoroughly. Now we're talking about readers, getting your book into the hands of someone who will now leave you a review on the sales page on Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Goodreads, wherever your book is sold. All right. Completely different ballpark. There is a gentleman about 10 years ago who I will not name, but everyone in the self-publishing industry would know the name, who admitted to paying for reader reviews. And it unleashed a firestorm that really damaged this person's career. All right. So not only will retailers cancel you, readers will cancel you too, because if you think about it, it's unethical. You're not telling the truth. You're making your book look better than. I mean, maybe you wrote a good book, but you're making the sales puffery around it artificial, and you really, really don't want that. Okay. So we cannot say it enough, and I hope everybody will hear me. Do not pay for reader reviews. All right. The only thing you can give a reader is a free copy of the book in exchange for an honest review. You cannot give them any money. You cannot give them any gift cards. You can't give them anything that could be considered or even remotely conceived of as consideration. All right. So just give them a copy of the book, and if they read the book, great. If they leave a review, fantastic. If the review is pretty terrible, you can certainly ask them not to leave that review if they happen to send it to you ahead of time, like Chris mentioned, with another area. But just make sure that you understand that this is a push-pull. You can send your book out there. You might not like everything that comes back, but ultimately it's a numbers game. And if you do all the stuff we talked about not rushing your publication, hiring professionals, write the best book that you can, and just do the best you can with the story and the marketing, we would hope that you would get good reviews for the book. All right. So that's just something I just wanted to make sure we were really clear on. But reader reviews are definitely very important for an author, because it's how readers communicate with each other. If you look at a book and you're trying to figure out, should I buy this or should I not? What's the first thing you do? You look down at the reviews and you see what other people are saying. And so this is a trusted way of selling books that is as old as time.
Michael, what if I gave a reader a book and said, hey, there's a car outside your house. If you like my book and leave a good review, you can have that car, maybe. Like, is that ethical? No, that's not ethical. It's also not ethical to say there's a car outside your house and you don't want to know what's going to happen if you don't leave a review. Anything to do with cars, probably not. Anything to do with free books distributed, get your free EPUB. Bingo. All right. Okay.
But
I know. I won't
see,
do it
just so it's clear. No machine guns, no cars, no strange men outside people's houses. Just stick to the honest reviews.
Right. So reader reviews are very important, as Michael said. So here's some ways that you can try to get reader reviews that are legitimate, honest reviews. Don't ask people in your family. Ask people that but you're not it's not like an exchange where you're like, I'll read your book, you read mine, and then leave an amazing review. Just reach out to people in your network. Do free giveaways or whatever on your social media, things like that. But again, it's like you can leave a review if you want, but you're not like it's not like an exchange in terms of like you have to or something. There's a book blog tour, which is there's all these blogs, and tie a giveaway for your book to the blog. And again, like book blogs are very specific about how you get them your books, and then also you want to make sure that when you're pitching them an idea, sometimes like if they want to, like maybe interview you or something, like let's say your book's about dog adoption, you could have an article that's about the top 10 things that you should do, after you adopt a dog, and that way you're like mentioning your book, and then you give a free giveaway, but the article again is not specifically about like, oh, this book's being published. And again, book bloggers are a great group. You want to mention all that? Oh, the book reviewer yellow pages is a good place for you to learn about like all the different types of bloggers out there and ways to contact them. That's what it looks like. IndieView is another directory where you can like try to find people that would leave reviews. There's a book blogger list. Some are, so be very careful, some are the pay, but then there's the free ones. And anytime someone comes up to you or they email you or anything and they say, I loved your book, say, thank you so much, would you be willing to leave a review? They're a fan, they like your book, but they might just not have thought about leaving a review. Don't be hesitant, don't be shy. These are your fans. They like your book, they'd be happy to. Now, sometimes you'll email them back and tell them, could you leave a review? And then they don't, right? Okay, fine. But always ask. They're not going to be angry at you. They like you. They like your book.
Yeah, and I'll say something else too. Oh, go, finish your thoughts. I was going to say, someone asked about advanced reviewer copies. So is it okay to give advanced copies of your book to potential reviewers, or is that unethical? The answer is that's absolutely okay. And in fact, that is a tried and true way of getting a lot of reviews before publication. So in the trade review section, we talked about how reviewers have calendars and how they have to get books within a certain amount of time. Some book bloggers have calendars too. And getting your book to them early is an important way for them to have enough time to read the book. Or even if it's just a standard reviewer, they're going to need some time to review your book. And so ideally, you kind of want to time it. In a perfect world, doesn't always work out that way, but in a perfect world, you want to be able to get the advanced review copy to the reader, a digital copy or a print copy if they want that, and then give them enough time so that when you publish the book, they can go and leave a review on day one. Easy to say, hard to do. Sometimes it's like herding cats to get reviewers to leave reviews, but you got to give it the college try. And even if you can get a few on day one, that can make a big difference.
Yeah, and some things that I do are I tell people it can be short. Like you don't have to, like reader reviews are not a professional review where they have to, give you a synopsis of the whole book again. It's literally just, I love this book, it's amazing. And you can even tell them, whatever you just wrote me in your email, you could just copy and paste that. KDP Select does do a free giveaway, so that's a way to also possibly garner like free reviews. It's like for 90 days, and you can do certain days out of those, so that's another option. So there are ways to, and so this is different from paying someone for a review. There are places you can get reader reviews, but it's an honest review. It's they can leave a bad review if they want. Hopefully they don't. So Goodreads has there's a standard one, and then there's a premium one, and it's a good way to you give them free copies of your book. You can give them 100 either print books or Kindle versions. Now, the Kindle is a little easier because right after the giveaway ends, they just are sent the Kindle version. The print version, you have to physically mail that to 100 people. So probably the Kindle is probably a better way to go. But you can, if you want to do the print version, then you can sign the books, and you know what I mean. So it could be interesting to entice people to want to do it. It's good exposure for your book. It's added to the want to read list of all these readers that want to be part of this giveaway, and it's put into their news feed. So everybody who's like reading their news feed, then they see, oh, this person wants to read this book, and so maybe they do too. I've heard people say that sometimes they give away all these free books, and then they're like, what the heck? I only got 3 reviews or something. So like Michael said, just because you're giving away your book for free, ideally you want them to leave a review, but they may not, and that's just part of how it works. So keep that in mind.
Yeah,
IBPA.
Goodreads is a hit or miss. It really is. I mean, if you're going to do it, definitely ask around and reach out to some folks who have used it and have experience with it, because that's a lot of money to spend on something that may not get you some results. There's a course by Alessandra Torre. She's a best-selling author and the founder of Authors AI. She has a Goodreads course that I believe she incorporates Goodreads into her strategy. It might be a good idea just to see how some best-selling authors are doing it, so that if you do choose to spend that money, it's money well spent.
Yeah, their company created Marlowe Pro, which our IBPA members get a discount on that. And it's
Yes.
a really interesting program, which is kind of different from all this. But anyway, I recommend reading up. It's like an AI program that kind of you can put your manuscript in, and it'll tell you if you have like how your book relates to other bestsellers and ways you can adjust it. Okay, so IBPA has the IBPA and NetGalley program. This is the 650,000 or more readers are on there. A lot of them are book lovers, but there are also educators, librarians, media. And what you do is it's a digital galley or an audiobook version of your book, and you post it on the site. Now, if you do it through us, you give us the materials, and then we post it on the site. And then these readers on there will download it for free, and then ideally they will leave a review. And again, it's honest reviews. They're not all going to be 100%, like favorable, but they can leave their reviews not just on NetGalley, which is in of itself a world where book lovers go to learn about good books. They also can leave it on other sites, and NetGalley makes it easy for them to leave it on Amazon, Goodreads, and all that, because they can just click a button and it sends automatically to those other sites. And the reviews sometimes, they can take time. So people, like, we post their book, and then the next day they're like, where are my reviews? And you're like, okay, hold on. These are literally like real people that have other things going on. They want to read your book, but you got to give them a little time. And sometimes people ask, well, how many reviews am I going to get? We've had people post their book, and they get 100 reviews or more, and then other books that don't get as many. And it comes down to, like, do people want to read this book? Are they excited about it? But the program's not just about getting reviews. You get all these stats. You find out why people wanted to read the book. Was it your description? Was that great? Was your cover great? Was your cover not good? If you get 100 people giving you a thumbs down in your cover, I highly recommend changing your cover. And this is a place to do it. And you can post books that have not been published yet and post books that have already been published. If your book hasn't been published yet and you get 100 dislikes in the cover, you have time to fix it. So it's a great place to get an idea of how people are reacting to your material. I already answered that. You also have reports that you get, and it's all these details, all these stats. You're going to get the emails of the people who downloaded your book. You cannot add them directly to your newsletter, but you can reach out to them, and if it's like a month later after they download the book, you can say, hey, I'd love to get a review. It'd be great. And if they already left a review, you can email them and say, thank you so much. Can you leave it on other places? Also, you clearly like this book. Is it okay if I add you to my newsletter? So you're just communicating with them with all that.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
How far before publication should you use NetGalley?
So you can use it so there's two different. IBPA has a 6-month program and then a 3-month listing. So 3 months is good because then it's boom, right, leading right up to your. You can do 6, but a lot of especially author publishers don't have that kind of lead time. Maybe the independent publishers do. So 3-month listings probably good. But again, if your book's already published, it's totally fine to still put your book on a NetGalley because you're getting the word out. Maybe your book's did well in the beginning, and then it's 2 years later, and you're like, ugh, nobody's reading it anymore. Okay, great, get it on NetGalley.
Okay, and is NetGalley for digital books, or is it for digital and print?
So you give us the digital galley, right? But if you have a print version or you have an ebook version, it doesn't matter. Like it's the digital galley of your book. And so people are reading the digital galley, but then you could have a print version or an ebook version that they can buy. So it doesn't matter.
Okay, and then another question that's kind of related. Do you send your ebook to reviewers before or after it is published?
So reviewers, well, so these readers are they talking about like bloggers, like professional reviewers,
Yeah, I
or
think it's not necessarily a NetGalley related question. It's just more of
oh,
in general, when do you send out books
yeah,
for
so
review?
yeah. Before it's published is generally the best way to do that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, for NetGalley, again, it's kind of these are a lot of them are consumers, so it's they don't have like a time frame. But if you're trying to get word out about your book, like Michael was saying earlier, like they have like a lead time of like sometimes 3 months where they're like, yeah, I'm happy to read it, but they need time to read it. And then you also want them to post their review like before the book comes out, so it's building buzz about your book.
All right, another NetGalley question. Is there any way to limit the number of downloads available? I.e., 650,000 people can read it, but do you want to set a limit of people that can download the book?
Yeah, so I can tell you this. In the history of the time that I've posted books, 650,000 people have never downloaded that many books. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah,
I know
if you have
readers.
that problem, that's a good problem to have, I suppose. A good expensive problem, maybe, but
yeah, that people are excited. Technically, so we do a read now option where like anyone on NetGalley can download it. You can go directly through NetGalley yourself, and you can, but theirs costs more than our listings because they're nice enough. They give our members a deal. But if you go directly through NetGalley, it's more expensive. And then they only have a 6-month listing. And then you can technically, yes, go in and you can approve readers. You can set it up so that people have to, whatever, say, yes, I want to, they'll request it. And then you go through the people who request it and you one by one can pick who downloads it. So through our program, we just do Read Now. I've never had a problem with people getting too many downloads because I'm telling you, the people on NetGalley aren't necessarily people that were ever going to know your book existed otherwise.
Right.
And so you're trying to just let the world know your book exists, and they're helping to build buzz with a whole network of people that you would never have had contact with. So this is something that Michael, you and I can probably talk about. I know it's hard to give away a free copy of your book. You just spent thousands of, at least I did. I said thousands of dollars to publish this book. And you're like, are you kidding me? Someone wants a free copy? I totally get that. I'm telling you, it's one of the best ways, if you're especially an unknown author, to just let people know you exist and let your people know your books exist. And that person now has a copy, but I'm telling you, if they love it, they're going to write a good review. They're going to tell their friends it was great. It's word of mouth that helps sell books. I'm sure you all know, people talk about, like, I read this book, it's amazing, right? People, I'm sure your friends tell you that. That's how it goes. If no one's read your book and it's selling online for $15.99 and people don't want to, they're like, I don't know this person, then you're going to have a hard time getting people to spend $15.99 on buying your book. So it's a good way just to start the process of people getting to know. And I'm telling you, it's going to pay off in the long run. Michael, did you want to talk about that concept of losing sales on giving away free books?
Yeah, I mean, you have to do it in today's society. I mean, I know that there are some people that are always hesitant to do that, but really, if you think about it like this, if you gave away your book to 100 people, right, and 50 of them leave reviews, that's a really high number, by the way, but it's just humor me for a minute. 50 people leave reviews, right? Then future readers, the thousands of future readers that come across your sales page are going to see that your book has 50 reviews, which is a very good number, right? And so that's going to entice them to potentially buy the book. So by giving some books away, you're allowing yourself to get more sales, because those readers that you give it away to, assuming they like it, assuming you get a really good star average, it just helps. It just makes everything easier. So whether you use NetGalley or whether you use trade reviews or reader reviews, however you get your reviews, it's important to be okay with giving your book away.
Yeah. NetGalley is international too. So it's you can tell me to restrict it to just the U.S. market, although I don't recommend doing that because you want to get the word out. But it's the UK, Australia, It's like a bunch of different markets throughout the U.S.,
Right.
throughout the world. So that's also a great thing. So you're letting the world know your book exists. And there are ways to get extra promotion. You can only get a listing and still do well. But if you want to get extra promotion, you can get one of the ones listed there. And again, you can email me, and I'm happy to tell you more. I know, Michael, we're running long, but I hope people are still sticking with us and they can watch them. Let's talk about realistic expectations. Your book's published, hooray! Okay, sales. It's very difficult to get the word out about about books, and people are like, I can't wait to be a bestseller. Like, this is just a great book, and I know that it's exciting, but we just want to set you up to understand, like, your average book that's like published through like an author publisher. It's like, last I read, it was like maybe 250 sales. I don't know if you have any updated on those numbers on those, Michael, but it's like 250 books per year that, like, your average author publisher sells. Do you have any feedback of what you've read about?
Yeah, I've seen it sometimes can be less than that. But it just depends on the book, depends on the genre, depends on how good the author is at marketing and business. So, I mean, it's wildly variable, and the thing is, it can vary from book to book. So unfortunately, as much as we would love to say, you publish your book, we're going to guarantee that you'll make, X amount of dollars in sales every month. It just doesn't always shake out that way.
And on that note, the best way to sell a book is to publish a new book. So every new book you have is another reason for them to hear of you, because now you're promoting that book. They'll read that book and go, oh my God, this is amazing. Does this person have any other books? Guess what? You do. So the more books you have, then the more books that you're selling. They're looking at your backlist. My two are trilogy, right? So it's like now they're buying the first book, but then they're like, I got to find out what happens in the second, and I have to buy the third. So that's helpful if you have a series. But even if not, if they like your style, then they're going to buy more of your books. So keep at it. If you can obviously afford it, but keep publishing more books. Don't get discouraged, because some people you've heard of, it wasn't until their fifth book that they became an international bestseller, and then people bought the other books, right? So just keep that in mind, that just because your first book doesn't make you a millionaire, it doesn't mean that you're not eventually going to succeed. But go into it knowing that the chances of it, the first book, and you're an unknown author or whatever, chances of it being like, even the New York Times or whatever bestseller, are pretty low. Don't get discouraged. Just keep at it. And I would say, do not use sales as a representation of how good your book is or how successful it is. Every email that I get from someone who says that they read the book and they enjoyed it, success. That's we want to touch people. We want to reach people. That is your level of success. People enjoy your book. So don't worry that, if only 200 people read your book, that is 200 people that read your book and then left reviews, said they love it. Eat that up. It should mean everything to you. Michael, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, I would just add and segue into the learning curve. Mm-hmm. That this is, it's not something that some people hit it out of the park on their first book, but being a writer is a lifelong journey, and it requires a lot of different skill sets. It's not just about writing a book. It's about also learning how to work with professionals. It's about learning how to market. It's about learning business. It's about learning what readers want and what their expectations are. And I think it's actually an unrealistic expectation to think that you're going to knock it out of the park the first time around. I very much view this as a lifelong journey. And I know that many folks at ALLi feel the same way. And so, if anything, just focus on publishing that book. If it doesn't do as well as you would hope, then try to figure out why. Was it the cover? Do you need to continue improving your craft? What did readers say about it? And with the next book, you'll hopefully do a little bit better. And with each book you publish, you will get better. And it will make it easier for you to eventually hit your expectation of success, whatever that is.
Yeah. If you haven't, if you want to reach out to Michael and myself, please do. We're here to answer your questions. We want to be helpful. I hope that you could tell by this presentation that that is like our sole existence in the world with IBPA and ALLi is to help you succeed. And we have a lot of resources to do that. Some we've mentioned here. There's a lot more that we haven't even mentioned here. Like our organizations do a lot more than just even the things we mentioned here. But please contact us. We want to hear from you. And I truly hope that your books are a success. And if not, then don't give up. Like this is, like Michael was saying, this is the long game. So keep at it. Michael, is there anything, any questions? I'll leave up our email just for a few minutes more, but maybe we can go to Q&A because I haven't checked in the Q&A.
Yeah, let's knock out some of these questions. We got a lot, but we'll get through as many of them as we can. I was told by my publisher that this call is also relevant for those of us that do most, if not all, of our own marketing. The answer to that would be yes. So hopefully we satisfied that question. I'm just kind of reading these as I go here. When I completed my manuscript several years ago, I submitted it to the Copyright Office here in the United States. Now I have rewritten it, doubling the book's size. Should I submit that back to the Copyright Office, and can I withdraw the prior copyright? I can take this one, Chris. The answer is if you feel like the book is a new edition, I mean, it sounds like you've definitely fleshed it out a little bit more. I would just submit a new copyright to the Copyright Office. I don't believe you can withdraw a previous copyright. So I would just copyright the second book and go from there. Okay, Chris, should you hire a self-publicist, or should you hire a publicist if you self-publish? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so a place that a lot of people can end up losing money is with like publicists and things like that, or they can be a big help. So definitely do your research, because sometimes you kind of get into this world where it's like next thing you know, you spent $5,000 and then you're like, where are my book sales? The other thing to keep in mind with hiring a publicist or someone to market your books is that I know that you want everything to lead directly to book sales, but not all marketing or publicity is going to necessarily lead to book sales exactly. It could also just be exposure for you as an author, just to get the word out. I'm sure you all have heard this before, but generally before people buy any product, they have to have heard about it like 7 times, right? So you're going to need to just continuing to have articles written about your book. You need to keep getting out there. So sure, you can hire someone, but be very careful that it doesn't suddenly get out of hand, and next thing you know, you're spent thousands of dollars. That's why like ALLi and IBPA, like we have connections to publicists. IBPA has all these marketing programs that are low cost, and they are because we have 4,000 members, and so what they would normally cost to get on the cover of Publishers Weekly is much less, because now we have multiple members who have their covers that are being put on the cover of Publishers Weekly.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, it's a difficult thing to justify. From an ALLi perspective, I think we probably say your money is better served elsewhere. Mm-hmm. I think there are other services you can use that will give you a better value for your money. But if you are going to use one, I would definitely go through IBPA and get some, and make sure that you have a vetted service as well. Okay, next question is, Chris, can you clarify some terminology? We use the word independent publisher throughout the presentation. Mm-hmm. Can you explain the difference between a small publisher versus an independent publisher, like an author publisher versus an independent publisher?
So an independent publisher is, yes, someone who publishes other people's books, although sometimes they publish their own books. An author publisher is specifically someone who only publishes their own books. And then an author is someone who someone else publishes your book. And then a hybrid publisher, I know there's so many terms. A hybrid publisher is, again, a company that will cover some of the costs of your book, like in terms of the cover design or something. But then you, as the author, you cover some of the other costs. But again, a hybrid publisher that is a legitimate hybrid publisher doesn't take every single person that comes to them. That is a service provider. And again, there's nothing wrong with a service provider, but just be careful with that concept, because there are companies out there that will try to scam you into thinking that they are a hybrid publisher and they're going to publish your book and do things with it that it's all just about them making money. So anyway, just be careful.
Yeah, thank you for that. Next question is, does IBPA or ALLi provide any discounts, referrals, or exchanges with audiobook narrators? I can answer this for ALLi. We do not, but that's a really interesting suggestion, something maybe we can think about in the future.
Yeah, so IBPA does have a discount for a company that produces audiobooks, and then they have narrators too. They're Audivita Studios. So if you go to our page with all of our member benefits, or if you just hang out for 2 seconds, I can put it into your answer and show you the page.
Yeah. I would recommend Findaway Voices or Authors Republic. These are audiobook distributors that can also help you connect you with a marketplace where you can find a narrator as well. So definitely with audiobooks, we recommend going wide. So, royalties, you have the choice of doing a royalty share or, paying up front for your audio. We always recommend that you pay up front for your audio. That way you always keep the rights to it and you can do whatever you want with it and distribute it widely. So there are some players in the market like Audible that will offer exclusivity. And unlike KDP Select, which is only 90-day terms, Audible exclusivity is a lot longer. So if you do a royalty share, it could be forever. So you just want to make sure you're really careful with your audiobooks and make sure you produce a good one too. All right. Is there a central database of regional publisher associations somewhere?
So I saw Paul was nice enough to post a link on our page of the regional publishers associations that the IBPA has connections to. But of course, there's going to be more than that as well. But yes, we do have that list.
Okay. And this will be recorded, but will we be sharing the slides afterward? Can we share the slides?
Yes, we can share the slides, sure.
Okay. So that came up a number of times in the comments. Someone
for an extra additional fee. No,
extra additional fee. Yeah, there you go. So we're going against all the advice we gave in this presentation. So next question is just a general comment around entering literary contests and awards for authors. I would also say that ALLi has a watchdog ratings directory for contests as well. So I mentioned that we have one for service providers, but we also have one for contests because that's another area where you can get scammed. So if you ever come across a contest or an award and you're like, I don't know about this, this seems a little weird, go to when we'll share links with everything that we talked about today. But check that and make sure it's in our database. And if it's okay, we'll tell you. If there's problems with it, we'll tell you too. All right, next question is, would IBPA and ALLi consider offering a discounted dual membership so we can affordably join both of your organizations?
I can tell you, ALLi members get $30 off of IBPA membership. But you can reach out to. You all have our promo code, so reach out to ALLi to get that promo code, and then yes, you can become an IBPA member for $30 off. As for a dual one, we haven't talked about that. But
yeah, we haven't talked about that. I mean, we have some systems challenges naturally in being able to integrate that. It's a suggestion well taken, but probably not something we'll be able to offer at this point. But certainly we have a valuable partnership here, and doing webinars like this and trying to get good information out to all of you is really important for us. Okay, next question is, what are the pros and cons of self-publishing over using an indie publisher? So like a small press.
So, I mean, the pros are if they're an indie publisher, then they're covering the cost of everything, right? So that's really helpful. They also have the know-how. If you're an author publisher and you're just trying to publish your first book, you're learning everything. You're wearing the hat. And even though you're hiring professionals to do these things, like Michael and I were saying, you don't necessarily know what all those things are. Even though we've done our best to kind of list them, there's a lot of other things that go into all this. indie publishers also have all the connections already, or not all, but they have a lot of connections already with bookstores. Maybe they have a traditional distribution, so they have a team of sales people going out to the bookstores. So with all those things, I mean, it's very helpful to have a publisher, supporting your book. In terms of cons, if you want to be in control of everything, like when the book comes out, how the cover looks, because the truth is, when they buy your book, they're buying the rights to it in terms of like they'll tell you about the cover, but for the most part, like you're not designing the cover, like they have professionals to do that. So if you want to, exactly in your head like how you want it to be designed, and you hire someone to do that, that's fine. But you lose some of that control. Michael?
Yeah, no, that's great. Control is the number one thing. You have more freedom as a self-published author or independent author than you ever will with a traditional publisher or even a small press. All right. So if you want to change your cover, you can change your cover. You want to change your price, you can change your price. You want to change your book description or your keywords, you can do all that at the turn of a dime as a self-publisher. When you have a traditional publisher, you can't necessarily do that. If you can do it at all, it's going to take a long time because it's got to go through people, and people are working on other things, and it can be just a challenge. Another thing that's important to point out is that with self-publishing, you keep the copyright. When you sign a deal with a publisher, you're licensing the copyright to them. Usually you're giving them a big bundle of rights that you can no longer do anything with. So if you, for example, AI audio is coming out right now. If you wanted to make an AI audio book, you licensed all of your audio rights to a publisher, you can't do that. All right. So that's just an easy example. So you keep that control, and you keep your copyrights, and your royalties are higher. So a self-published author makes anywhere generally from 60% to 70% royalties for each sale. All right. That's significantly higher than what you would make if you went the traditional route, where it can vary, but you're not going to make anywhere near that level of royalty amounts. Okay, so that's just scratching the surface. Honestly, there are a lot of other pros and cons to self-publishing, but just wanted to give the ALLi self-publishing angle on that. Okay, I can take this one too. How is the price of a book set, and who makes that decision? So if you self-publish, you choose, essentially. So if you want to market your book and sell it, you choose the price. Now, that's not to say that you should charge $9,999 for your book. Okay, that's probably not a good idea. But for an ebook, you want to price what other people in your genre are doing, right? And traditional publishers are probably going to price their books higher because they've got a higher profit margin. As a self-publisher, your profit margin is nowhere near theirs, so you can afford to charge less, make a higher royalty, and sell a higher volume and make more money. Okay, so the best way to determine what the price should be is to do your research. Now, for ebooks, now for print, there's going to be printing considerations, right? So how much does it cost to print your book? Where are you going to distribute it? What's the discount, on Ingram? All of these things have to be factored in. But you also want to look at what other people are doing, because that's going to give you a good starting point. So, anything you want to add, Chris?
No, you got it.
Okay. Next question is, I freelance and I create my own contracts. I've never heard of an author I work with providing the contract. Is that normal or recommended? Well, I would say certainly if the freelancer doesn't provide one, then I would definitely provide one. It's just a good thing to cover your butt, so to speak, right? So if you're an author and the freelancer doesn't have a contract, there's templates. You can find them online very easily to help you if you need to do that. Okay. Chris, can you talk about Baker and Taylor? When would an author use Baker and Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that like they're for libraries. Like I don't think you can just email me. I'll get you more information.
Okay.
I want the person to email me because that's not my area of expertise, specifically Baker and Taylor.
Okay. There's an ALLi question. Is there an ALLi guide to setting up a publisher company? That is a really good question. I will look into that, and we can share that in our resource directory if we've got a blog post. Fairly certain we've got it. It's a question we get a lot, so I'm fairly certain we've got some good blog resources on that. Okay. Next question. Is there somewhere to learn about the best practices regarding an author business for tax purposes? Taxes for authors.
Yes, so one really great resource, and I'm going to put it in the chat here for like IBPA, is our articles. So we have the IBPA Independent, and we have the database of all the old articles. So there very well may be an article that is about some of these things. So I'm going to put that in the chat.
Okay.
So give me a sec.
Yep. Great. And while you're doing that, there's another question I'll take and just answer it. Will Ingram Content Group distribute an independently published book, i.e. a book that's already self-published? And the answer is yes, they will. So let's see. Next question is, if you do Amazon exclusivity for a short time to launch a book, how long should that exclusivity period last? And the answer is each term of KDP Select lasts 90 days. So you're not locked into exclusivity forever with Amazon. If you put your ebook in the KDP Select program, it's only 90 days. Now, how many terms of 90 days should you go, right? That's probably the next logical question. And I'm gonna have to give you a squishy answer. It depends, right? So we recommend that, if you're going to use KDP Select, use it strategically, but you can't use it forever. All right. So whether that's 2 terms, whether it's 2 years, whatever that looks like, as long as your North Star is getting a wide distribution, that's key. Anything you want to add on that, Chris?
No, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Will the chat comments and Q&As be included in the resources that we send?
I will,
okay.
I will try. I know the chat. The Q&A is a little different because the way it's set up, it's like in all these different places depending on what was answered live and all that. But anyway, I'll try to copy that too. But if nothing else, I know that I can include the chat.
Yeah, we'll do our very best on that. Next question is, Bowker also sells barcodes, but you can get a free barcode. Are there any downsides to doing that?
I saw people put some links in there about the free barcode generators. I mean, I personally got mine through Bowker because I just wanted to make sure like it was legit and all, like that was the right one. But it looks like some people are saying that there is a free generator in the Q&A. So you're welcome to try that. I've never done that though, so I can't speak to like.
Yeah, I haven't either. Yeah, I haven't either. And while we're talking about barcodes, do you recommend putting a price on your barcode? I would look at wherever you're distributing your paperback, I would look at their guidelines, because I can't remember off the top of my head. There's one, I think, where you're not supposed to put the price in the barcode. And there might be others where you are. So look at the guidelines before you make that decision.
That's what we were talking about earlier, where you're posting your book on all these different sites. It's really annoying because it's little details like that where you're like, it's different. So, you got to give your ebook designer and your cover designer all these different things so that they're following it for all the different things. And then like that, if you're buying your, barcode from Bowker, well, then you have to make sure you get the right one. So yes, check the guidelines, and it's a bit of a pain.
Yeah. So is it okay for Amazon and Ingram to create the barcode as long as we provide our Bowker ISBN?
So yeah, they generally do. Like there are certain sites like them where like they'll create the barcode, and that's fine. You're providing the ISBN, and because they have a specific barcode that they want to put. So like when you upload your cover through KDP, they're one of the sites that says do not include like your barcode on the cover.
Excellent. Okay, and Chris, I think we got through all of our questions, so we made it.
Woo!
All right.
So,
thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and we answered every single one as if we're geniuses. So I'm very proud of us.
Yep, exactly.
So I cannot tell you enough like how much we appreciate y'all coming, and also again like reach out to us. We want to help you. We're author publishers too. We know how tough it is, and you know, we hope you'll become members of IBPA and ALLi. You know, as you can see, we got a lot of information to be helpful. So thank you again, and I'll send the recording and everything sometime later this week as soon as we can. But really, thank you so much. I'm gonna stop recording for everyone watching, but it's not. We're not all gonna disappear. But thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful